being with us for these 5 episodes. Today we've got a really good speaker, Matt Reda. I'm not going to give too much away about Matt because Matt can share his story, but this is going to be really beneficial especially for you guys in America that have come over on our program to go back and get the insight. So yeah, it'd be great, Matt, if you could just start with a bit of an introduction. So kind of who you are, kind of your life before RIASA, and talk a little bit about your interests, which kind of led to coming to our program, really.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks again for taking the time, Matt and Mark and everybody who's jumped on. So like Matt said, Matt Reda here. Current job is VP Corporate Development with the United Soccer League, which I'm sure you guys know a lot about or a decent amount about, and excited to give you more info there. I'm from St. Louis. I live in Tampa now. I was a St. Louis kid, went to school at University of San Francisco for a bit, transferred out and went to a D3 school called DePaul University in Indiana. And during DePaul, I got an opportunity to play overseas in Spain. And while I was playing in Spain, one of my good contacts growing up, and a coach on ODP and a coach that I knew just throughout the area, John Raceline, who used to work with RIASA for a while, was starting up the master's program. I was, undergrad, so I was looking at what to do after school and where to play and things like that. And through John, I got to meet Mark and learned a lot about RIASA and decided to jump on the master's side and came over after that year and then did the program. And so from there, I came back to the U.S., jumped in with USL, was kind of my first gig, and have been there ever since. Actually, yesterday was 5 years. So 5 years later, here we are. Pretty crazy to think about. It went really fast, but RIASA heavily influenced the professional side of my life, and just from an experience perspective as well, just amazing. And I'm sure you guys are experiencing that right now. And when you look back on it, that'll be one of the things you look back on in your life, and that'll have a highlight and an asterisk next to it for sure. So I guess that's me. Is that all right, Matt?
Yeah, no, perfect introduction. Congratulations on the 5 years. We'll go into that a little bit later. But so what was the main reason why you chose RIASA, really? Because obviously there must have been quite a few options available for you to go study a master's. What kind of stood out?
Yeah, so I think there are a couple things. Probably like a lot of you guys, we grew up watching English football. That's probably how we fell in love with the game. And so that allure, that opportunity to always go over there and play was something I always thought about, I always wanted to do, always dreamed about. And as you guys know, we think about it all the time, but it's not like a realistic option. It's not something that necessarily you can just apply for and it works out until literally I heard about RIASA. And so obviously there are standards you need to meet. And having met those, it was an opportunity we looked at seriously. I think primarily the first motivation for me was just graduating. I'm not necessarily getting picked up by a USL club or an MLS club. I somehow didn't make the super draft. So I was trying to figure out a way to continue playing because I definitely knew I wasn't ready to hang up the boots. And so having that opportunity to play at a high level, play overseas and play with an opportunity for professional exposure and in an environment where you're going to play against other people that are at a high level, I was super excited about that. Then you throw on top of that, you guys are getting an undergraduate degree. We were getting a postgraduate degree, and we're getting it in 12 months as opposed to the 24 to 36 it might take in the US. That was icing on the cake. And then you learn more about it. You learn about Leeds as a city. You learn about Carnegie School of Sport and Leeds Beckett in general and what we had going on there with the master's program. It was really an opportunity. I thought we definitely have to take this. So it worked out timeline wise as well.
Perfect. Yeah. So it'd be great. So what academic qualification did you leave with? And if you could give a little quick summary of kind of what that encompassed.
Yeah, and absolutely. And tell me if you want me to keep it more general. Mark, yeah. I don't remember what exactly you guys are doing with Beckett right now, but I know it's a little different from undergrad. For me, I graduated MA Sport Business, Leeds Beckett. So having that master's degree, having an international degree was huge. And as you guys know, I call it education inflation or academic inflation. Undergraduate degrees really in general are kind of the expectation now as you're entering the workforce. And so you guys already have a leg up having an undergraduate degree that's, international. And also it's going to stand out on a resume. But then in addition to that, the master's opportunity, everybody's got to get a master's now, especially if you want to be a business type person, and getting to do that overseas was fantastic. And Carnegie School of Sport, which is actually well revered throughout England, it's an excellent school for what it does, was a great opportunity.
Perfect. Some of the best moments from your time in Leeds on the program, if you've got any.
Yeah, we'll keep it program related. We'll keep it PG-13 related for now. Mark's already laughing, so I'm not going to get into those details. I think overall, I look back at it now. You look at the program and kind of the most memorable things, and you guys are probably experiencing it right now, which is, dude, one day you stop playing. One day you don't get to go out every day and play soccer and play with your teammates and have that banter in the locker room. And when you don't have that, you remember immediately how important that was. And I think it's a little different when you're master's program, because you had those 3-4 years undergrad where you experienced that, you got that opportunity, and now you're kind of in a situation where your buddies aren't, they're done, they're in the work world. So you getting that extra year for us was super, super important, super special. But I think number one, best experience was we had a great group of guys, very high level soccer players, very high level humans, just really funny, good people. We had great coaches. So the relationship was fantastic. The experiences were fantastic. And I think kind of my most memorable moment was the day-to-day walking from our house to practice, walking back, hanging out with everyone, playing, hanging out afterwards, trying to understand what John Hendry's saying. Things like that are going to be, what I continue to remember on one side. And then I think on the other side, some of the memorable moments are playing in Valley Parade, for example. Just an amazing experience. Anytime we got to go on those exposure trips or play a friendly or a showcase type match, and just having that opportunity is fantastic. And I think, as you guys will see, take a step back and realize, hey, I'm playing overseas. I'm doing something that 95% of the soccer players in the U.S. dream about, and so I'm getting to do it with friends that I'm going to have for my entire life. An amazing experience, I think, overall.
Awesome. That sounds so good. So have you got any tips for kind of how our current students can succeed really on the program?
Yeah. Soccer related, or do you want overall? I mean, it's the same thing in my opinion. So,
well, hit us with what you got. Obviously, we're looking for advice from you. So whatever you've got for us.
Yeah. So I think overall, and really, guys, I think you got to look at it like this. You probably for most of you, the primary motivator here was football. That's why you're doing this. But the experience is not just football. There's a lot that goes into this. You invested in a lot more than just football. Your family invested in a lot more than just football. And so when you're attacking this opportunity, you need to attack every aspect of it. So for me, there was a kid when I was deciding whether or not I wanted to do this, Brendan Roslin, who this is a long time ago, back in the day, was going through the program. And Brendan, I gave him a call to learn a little bit more about it. And Brendan was giving me some of the highs. He was giving me some of the things that surprised him. And he's from Denver, so the weather was one of them, which made no sense to me that he said that, but it was. But one of the thing that stuck out to me about what he said was, it is what you make it. And for me, I think there are a lot of ways to look at that type of piece of advice. I think some people can look at it like, oh, well, okay, we'll see what happens. And other people go, oh my God, it is what I can make this whatever I want it to be. Let's go. And fortunately, I think I was with a group of people that all had that mentality where this literally is what you make it. You want to have a great time, you can have a great time. You want to play at a high level, you've got people around you that are ready to play at that high level every single day. You want to go out, have a good time, you're in Leeds. I think it's the highest student population in Europe still. Unbelievable time. You want to get a great degree, that's a good school that you're with, it's a good program that you're doing. There are tons of opportunities that come with that. So you take advantage of that as well. So I think my overall kind of single most important piece of advice to people doing that program right now is, dude, go into it every single day and make the most out of it, because you're doing something that there are kids like you that are thinking about doing it, that wish they did it, that are sitting in desks right now in corporate jobs or sitting on fields coaching, and they're like, damn, I wish either I took advantage of that or I made more advantage of what I did, and enjoy it. That's the other thing. You got to enjoy this. I know sometimes it's tough when maybe you're not getting selected for the starting 11 and it's pissing rain and you're sitting in the bench and your shoes are all muddy and stuff like that. But these things are cyclical. You keep your head there, you keep your mentality there. You're going to get in games. You're going to get opportunities to play. You're still training every day, which you wouldn't be if you were here in the States, or you wouldn't be, even the college soccer and undergrad in the United States is nowhere near the opportunity that you get over there. So just being thankful for that, I think. Taking a step back, looking at it now, I'm definitely super thrilled with how it went for me. I'm thrilled for how it went with some of my guys that I still are like my best friends. And I think, like, for you guys right now, it's easy to get kind of bogged down sometimes with the day-to-day. But when you get a chance, I mean, and it's tough. When you're young, it's tough. But when you get a chance to take a step back, and if you can appreciate the situation you're in right now and understand that, it is finite in terms of time, it'll make you, I think, motivated to really take advantage of everything the program offers, which is certainly so much more than soccer. And I think, honestly, to make, back your investment and then some on the experience, you need to really invest in the non-soccer aspects as well.
Amazing. So inspiring. I'm inspired by that. Thanks for sharing that advice. It'd be great now if you could just talk about how you kind of expanded your networking structure within, in terms of kind of how did you kind of realize and create awareness of jobs within the football industry?
Yeah, well, I think so. Part of it is you've got ready-made structural networking opportunities through the university, through your professors, through your coaches. So take advantage of them. And you guys, I know Mark Ellis is a funny guy that's on the field all the time, but the man's very well connected. He created this thing out of nothing. And this is just a perfect example, I think, of what sport can do in the 21st century. So take advantage of people like that. And I'll give a credit to Mark. You could have the most, shit game of your RIASA career, and you want to go up to him 15 minutes later and talk about something. He'll talk to you about, non-soccer related stuff. He'll talk to you about business stuff. If you want an introduction to a guy he might know about coaching, he'll get you situated there. So I think there are a lot of structural pieces already in play that you can take advantage of in terms of networking. I think being in the UK, being in Leeds in particular, with regard to sport, if you look at sport as an industry, Leeds is an amazing place for sport. You've got amazing football opportunities there, but you've got right down the road, you've got rugby and you've got cricket and you've got people that are involved there that know the city very well, that know Carnegie School of Sport very well, that know other people in the industries. You guys will see sport in general is a small world. So it's not just football. It's not just rugby. All of these things tie together. And that's why it's so important when you do get a gig to crush it, to make the most of it and go from there. Because chances are you might cross sport. You'll definitely cross teams, and you'll meet the same people along the way. So I think overall, in terms of expanding that network, you need to look for the opportunities, talk to the coaches, kind of identify what it is you want to do or what you like. Like if you like what Matt does on the marketing side and the networking side, talk to Matt, learn what he does, be an intern for him, do some, help him out, just be there, just learn about it. If I recall, and I'm not gonna harp on it, but if I recall, there's a lot of downtime. Like you got time to do what you want. Don't do it spending FIFA. You're in England, you guys paid all that money. Your parents invested in your future. Don't go and sit in your dorm room and play FIFA. Do some internships, get outside, go talk to Rob Oates down at the Rhinos, like learn about these opportunities. We had a lot of that. We were a little older, so it was easier, but that I think, again, going back to that, it's what you make it. There are a lot of things just sitting there for you to do and pick up on. And, if you want to learn something or you want to kind of pursue a different route, now is the time to do it, because all of this stuff goes onto your resume And ultimately, when you're leaving here, you're going to be trying to play soccer, which is fantastic, but you got to be looking at the other stuff you want to do. And if you can show 2 to 3 to 4 years of experience in certain areas, you're already off to a great start.
Perfect. So we're going to move on to kind of your career then now, which we'll probably get a lot more insight, which is going to be really good. How did you kind of find your first job at the USL? If you could just quickly give like a little overview about that, how you got into it.
Yeah. So we started looking. So we knew we wanted to do sport related. Got a sport degree and master's. So and I had through a couple of people at Leeds, I got a great internship opportunity with Thomas Sport. And so I was doing a lot of stuff with Leeds Beckett and learning about different presentations, and that stuff had to do with psychosomatic behavioral analysis stuff. But really what it made me do kind of halfway through the program is realize there are job opportunities here. I should look at all the job opportunities. And so I think if I recall, at that point in time, I had kind of narrowed down, and this is something you guys can do too. I knew I wanted to work in sport, or at least try it. And I knew there were kind of 3 routes I wanted to go down. One was coaching, one was college athletics, doing the AD route, and then one was professional soccer from a executive side. So getting into pro soccer, I didn't really know what the hell I was going to do. It was like, I see these guys, at Bradford City games or Leeds United games that work for the team and are involved there. I don't really know what they do, but I see what Rob Oates does with the Rhino. So let's try to go down that route. So those were the 3. So you start looking at different opportunities. NCAA job market was really good for coaching and job related stuff, or I should say AD related stuff. Still a really good, I think, useful site. That's the NCAA job market. Then Teamwork Online for US based sport jobs is going to be your number 1 route as well. So any team, minor, major, any department, communications, operations, what have you, they put all of their jobs on Teamwork Online. So those are 2 websites you definitely got to have bookmarked moving forward. And then third, in terms of like where to look, is number 1, specifically if there's a club or there's a league or there's like a university that you want to be part of, you got to go to their website and check it out, because there's not always crossover. And then also I think Indeed is an amazing search tool for careers and jobs. And it's not necessarily sport related, but a lot of times there's crossover there. So I'd also recommend doing Indeed, which is where I found the USL opportunity. So I got back to the States, finished my DIS, was doing a bunch of job search related stuff, and found the USL gig on Indeed.com, which is not where you think you'd find it. And that is, so I'll pause there for a second, but that's really kind of how I found the job. So.
Perfect. Thank you. So it's 5 years with USL, which is really amazing. It'd be great if you could just give a little overview of your current position and kind of how you've progressed through different departments.
Yeah. So good timing with the 5 years now crossover. So I just jumped up to vice president here of corporate development. And what that means with USL, my main gig right now is I lead expansion on the pro side, primarily for League One, which is 3rd division pro soccer in the US, just like League One over in the UK. We still have championship level clubs that we're trying to bring in, but really the future of pro soccer in the US in terms of new franchises and new clubs is going to be at the smaller to mid-sized level, which is really exciting because I know a lot of us come from small to mid-sized cities. So, rather than driving 2 or 3 hours to go watch that pro team play, these are the cities now that are going to have pro clubs and pro academies underneath them and all of the infrastructure that comes with that. So that's my main gig now, is making sure we hit the franchise number we want to hit. Before then, bounced around to quite a few different gigs. I started at USL with youth league operations, I think was the title. And basically we had a youth league. We had a youth summer league, and I was in charge of running a couple of divisions of the league. And really what that meant is everything from setting the schedules to calling the teams to getting the rosters to chasing down the score, settling ref disputes. We would do on-site events, and you're doing everything, waking up at 5 a.m, setting up all the goals in the fields and all that shit, and then coming back at midnight, and then doing the same thing over and over again. So it was a grind, but it was an amazing exposure opportunity to everything you got to do in sports. And you guys will learn this. Teams are small, front offices are small. Most industries are small. FIFA is probably a lot smaller than you think. And especially when you're coming in and doing a job, you're going to do everything. And so I'll get into that in a second, but I did youth league operations. From there, I got a chance to do a little bit more marketing for what was PDL at the time, which is now League Two, kind of 4th division amateur level. From there, got an opportunity to jump onto the corp dev side for the first time and started doing sponsorships and partnerships, assisting there. I helped create kind of our first and to that point, biggest partnership program, which we called Preferred Supplier Program, which had a lot of success. My gig from there was we do a big event, like an AGM type conference, and I sold the booths for the event. So bringing in like a 6-figure revenue stream and essentially selling people on the idea of selling their stuff within soccer was my biggest, I think, step into the corp dev side. And from there, moved over to expansion, kind of did both, and then full-time expansion as teams started coming. And that's 5 years later, that's where we're at. So definitely different from where I started in terms of the actual day-to-day, certainly different in terms of the title, position, kind of responsibility. But I think, it's super important to do all of those things to get to this point. You definitely can't, and you guys will see this as you start to apply. You're not going to walk into like a high level gig or a kind of, a cool job description type thing right away. You're going to have to grind and do some of the dirty work early on to get in. And I definitely, that's how I got in here for sure.
Amazing. That sounds like such an epic journey where you've been able to experience so much. I think for me, I've got probably one more question, and because of your position and where you are, I think we'll start the question and answer session earlier than expected, because I think it's a great chance for our students to kind of ask you things. So my final question for me is, kind of, if you're interviewing students or any applicants for like roles, what kind of makes them outstanding? What would you look for in a candidate? If you was to hire someone, if that makes sense.
For sure. So, and this is cool because I do hire people now, so I get to see like what that side of it's like. And I think, honestly, I'm going to take the question and kind of change it a little bit because I saw that on the sheet and I want to talk about it. Because I think it's also a big part of how I got the gig at USL, which was down in Tampa. I was in St. Louis at the time. They got, thousands of applications. And for me, you ask, what do I look for in an applicant? What do I look for somebody that I want to work with? The first thing, honestly, is this, the idea that we're sifting through thousands of applications and looking at, people saying participated in a business development team that did X, 150 times and saying, oh, well, this person's, detail here on this line is better than this person, so I think we'll go with that guy. Like, that's not how it works. Like at all. Nobody wants to read those applications. I would even say this to you guys: the resume is important. You got to button it up. You got to make it look good. You got to make it cater to the job that you're applying for. But you're not getting hired because of your resume. That's a box you got to tick. You tick that box, you'll be good. If you're going to get a job, effectively, the resume part comes up when they go, yeah, I want this guy. Let's just make sure his resume is not total crap. And as long as you tick that box, you're good. So what I look for, first off, is somebody who really wants the job. And how I know you want the job is that you're reaching out to me. You're finding me before I find you. Applying for a job is the bare minimum. And I'll give you an example, which is my first gig with USL. I didn't really know that much about it. So I applied for the job, just boom, right away, apply for it. Did the basic thing, like whether it's on the website or you got to turn in an application, whatever it is, you got to apply for the job, boom. So I did that. I researched it more. I'm like, shit, I want this. So I looked up who my hiring manager was. I looked up basically who because it doesn't tell you all the time. So I looked up okay, who's literally who's going to be my boss, who's going to determine this job. Who are the HR people that are going to pass it on. You can do that on LinkedIn. You can do that on the company website. You can do that with Google. So it's not an excuse. You can find that. You got to go and do that. And then from there, I reached out the first time with an email. And I mean, it's not rocket science. Reached out, said, hey, I just applied for the job, super interested, had a couple of questions that I didn't see on the application. I was hoping to talk to you about further. Just outreach, that guy, and it's a good thing I outreach. The guy that I reached out to goes, hey, I got 30 minutes tomorrow, give me a call. So I give the guy a call. I look him up beforehand too, figure out who the hell he is, where he's from, who's his brother and sister, where he went to school, that kind of stuff. So you find connections. Boom. We played preseason. Our schools did against each other. He's a Midwest kid. I'm a Midwest kid. He's a soccer guy. So I know these things going into it. First 5 to 10 minutes, we're not even talking about the job. I call him up. He says, hey, the first thing I talked to him about was, he went to Illinois Wesleyan. So how shit the field was even in preseason when we used to do those games, and we're laughing about that. So you make a connection. Then we talk about the job. You come up with a couple of questions that they don't have to be questions per se, but what you want to do is demonstrate that you have reviewed stuff that's not on the application. You've reviewed the company, you've reviewed the job description, and what that shows the person who's now taken time out of his day to specifically talk to you is that you're very interested in the job and you're doing everything you can to show him that. So it's going to impress them. So we did that. And it's a good thing I did. We turned, at the end of 30 minutes, I find out that this guy's not even the boss anymore. He's moved up. He's not going to be the guy hiring this position. But he tells me, Dan's going to be running this. Dan's going to be your boss. I think you should definitely talk to him. I'm going to pass on our convo. I'm going to pass on your resume, send it to me personally. Make sure you guys talk later this week. So from there, he passed me on to Dan, and Dan and I caught up, had a chat, and I was signing the agreement letter the next week. So I don't even think they looked at my job application, to be completely honest. Dan sits on the other side of the office now. We went different ways in terms of what we do in the company. I'm corp dev, he's operations, but at that time we were both working youth league, and you go back and look at it and you talk to him about it. He was like, there's no way I'm going through 150 job applications. So I think in terms of just a story for you guys to show how that works, applications the bare minimum, resumes the bare minimum. It's all about what you're doing beforehand, what you're doing with your outreach, what you're doing with your research, and none of it's, again, rocket science. It's just big graph, I think, as I say up there.
Amazing. Yeah. Well, thanks. Like I said, I've cut it short. I've honestly got loads of questions for you, and I could probably sit here and speak to you all night, but it's this is for the students. So we'll open it up to you guys now. Matt's here. He works for the USL. So if you've got any questions, any burning questions for him, please ask away like we usually do at the end of the session. So yeah. Who's going to be first?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Vic.
So you said you're from St. Louis. I'm from St. Louis too. So first off, I just wanted to ask what high school you went to. That's the first thing.
Yeah, the most St. Louis question you could possibly ask. So I'm a SLU high guy. I went to SLU.
All right.
St. Louis University for you guys. What about you? You got to answer. You got to return that.
I went to Burroughs, John Burroughs School.
Okay.
So then my question was just have you done any work with STLFC since you've been working in the USL?
Yeah. So STLFC obviously was affiliated with the USL team that was around up until this year. The Gallagher side is doing a League 2 situation, so they've got a team at that level, and then the academy is involved in the USL Academy, and some of the lower level teams participate in our youth league during the summer. So between them and the Lions, when Tony's able to do his League Two operation, there's a lot of St. Louis influence within USL.
All right, thank you.
Cheers, Nick. Thanks, Matt. Get the questions come in.
What would you say is the benefits for working with the USL in terms of like going to the higher ups like MLS or overseas or anything like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think there are two ways to look at it. Number one, I think USL is actually in certain cases bigger in terms of the company than some of the other leagues. USL is, half of what we do is the pro side. The other half is event-based, youth league-based, amateur soccer-based, and we're hopefully jumping into other sports here moving forward. So in terms of getting an opportunity, it's probably there are just more opportunities because it's a larger company. In terms of like if you want to use it as a way to cut your teeth and get to a higher level, I think it's great because it'll prepare you for that. You're primarily going to get the opportunities here if you want to work, at the MLS, you're going to work at the Premier League. They're not going to hire you out of the blue per se. And a lot of the jobs that they have at that level are higher level anyway. So to get them, you got to go through another spot. And then I'll just plug USL here for a second and just say, with where soccer is in the US with, for example, the MLS business model, which is top 30 MSAs, top 30 population markets. That's what we want to do. And us kind of looking at building out the rest of the infrastructure. I think in terms of growth opportunity, in terms of responsibility opportunity, there are even more opportunities in those lower levels, like USL or like kind of its counterparts in other parts of the world.
Perfect. Thanks, Matt. Cheers, Cedric.
I have a question then to follow up on that. Like what kind of like relationship and interaction is there between the USL and the MLS? Like how established is sort of like growing up in the US, you always kind of felt like there was sort of divisions between the different like leagues and the different like the whole tiered system. So like what does that like relationship and reaction, like the engagement look like between USL and MLS?
Yeah, it's a good relationship. It's not an official partnership. So I think that's the first thing, is understanding that the MLS is a separate company from the USL, and MLS is focused on Division 1, which is top level. USL is obviously Divisions 2 and 3, and that's the focus, very similarly to what you have in the Football League and the Premier League. Like those are two separate entities. So there is a good relationship. There are still MLS 2 teams in USL that kind of use it as a development system. That was super important, I think, for the past 5 to 10 years in establishing USL in other markets and building the brand awareness and building the size of the professional footprint. But what we're starting to see now is there's no need for the affiliation, and that the rise of like independent franchises in markets is growing. So in terms of that relationship moving forward, it's still good for sure, 100%, but you're going to see, I think, MLS concentrating more on MLS and making, the push to be one of the top leagues in the world. That's really their goal. And the USL is also actually trying to be, one of the top leagues in the world, certainly one of the top second division level leagues in the world. And so as a result, two different business plans, two different growth structures. So it's a great relationship, definitely two different companies from that regard though.
Thank you. Good question, Ethan. Anyone else?
Have you ever thought about working for the MLS? I know that since you've done the past 5 years with the USL, would you think of the MLS as like a challenge, or are you happy where you are?
Good question. And I think it's a kind of a good philosophy to look at, which is playing in the MLS is definitely like tougher and higher level than playing in the USL. On the professional side, on the business side, not necessarily the same. That is to say, I think there's a great opportunity, obviously from a personal perspective, to continue growing at the USL, but also in terms of what we're doing here in general. I think this is, if you want to be in soccer, if you want to be in sports in general, between now and the 2026 World Cup, this company, this league is going to grow probably more than any other league in the world in any sport in terms of the number of teams that are coming in. So for me, somebody who's directly involved in the creation of those new franchises, you know, if you'd have told me that when I was sitting in your shoes at Leeds 5 years ago, I'd have jumped at it right away. So there's definitely no incentive to necessarily go to another league or work with like a higher division league. I think in terms of who I am, what I'm doing, and what we're doing here, this is hottest ticket in town.
Cheers. Great question, Diego. Got any more questions for Matt?
Can I ask you one, Matt?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, cheers. I always ask a question. So you think studying in Leeds for the year that you came over, that definitely helped you get your position where you are today? Or because I know Jordan Rouse works with you as well, who also came over, and he also went to play in Finland for a little bit as a professional, didn't he? And he also got a job at the MLS. So do you think them two factors really helped you get that role? Because like you said, it must have been really sought after when you applied for it.
Yeah, I think it did. I think there's a lot that RIASA did in the experience in general. Certainly helped me get the gig. I think my outlook on life too changed significantly. The people that I met there and worked with really helped with that too. And I think it's an experiential thing. First off, you know, it's differential on your equation, on your applications, on your your resume, your CV. When you're talking to people, it's going to set you apart. But I think a year in Leeds, and you guys are getting more than a year in Leeds, that changes you as a person. And I think if you take advantage of it and do it the right way, it's going to set you apart. It's going to put you at a higher level of a person, higher achieving, stronger mentality. I think also, you're more fun to be around people like you, and you'd be amazed at how important it is to have people like you where you go. And so I think overall, Mark, just playing at RIASA, it definitely helped me get the job. I think both like logistically and then also on kind of all of those other nuanced aspects.
The reason sorry, Matt. The reason I ask is because a few years ago now, younger, I got offered a job in England, and I decided to go to Cape Town, South Africa for a year instead to work with their RIASA academy over there. And it's probably the best decision I ever did in my life because I came back, I had a different CV to everybody else, and I just met so many people, so many other people, and looked at life different when I came back to England.
One of my bosses who was playing with the Fire for a while did the Ajax thing, and he crushed it. He loved it too. I haven't done that yet. I really want to, but that kind of stuff. So you guys just kind of doing what you did in terms of taking this leap already, I think puts you in a great spot. And like Mark said, one of I think RIASA's best products in terms of a player, Jordan Rouse, who's one of my really good friends. Also did the RIASA experience, also now works in USL. He's a director on the youth side. He's cutting his teeth and continuing to rise up the ranks. You look at Jordan, you look at some of the other people in this company compared to Jordan, and he's got, I don't know how to describe it to you, but it's like he's got an aura. I think he had an aura at USL as well, or at RIASA, but I think it's just kind of that experience in general changes you, forms you. It gives you kind of that next level presence, and a lot of it's taking advantage of it and making the most. And then when you get the opportunity, when you get the interview, when you get the phone call, you crush it, and you're not hesitant because of all the preparation you've had.
Yeah, and it's funny with Jordan because he actually went on a tour with us. We were playing Kemi City, and it was actually another club that picked him up, and he signed for another club over there, right on the border with Sweden, didn't he? So, I don't know how long he stayed, but next news I heard he was working with the USL as well. So, which is great. Yeah,
absolutely. That came from so just based on network. So Jordan was a really good buddy with the guy that I went to school with, Mitch Revis, who also did the program.
Yeah, Mitch as well. Yeah.
Just that's a really good example of RIASA network getting two guys jobs. So it's a real thing. It's not just something that we're saying. This is a real thing.
Thanks, Mark.
Cheers, Mark. Any more questions for Mark?
Matt, it's Martin. Can I ask you a question, please? It's a pretty obscure question as well. So if we turn the clock back for you, and now you are in this cohort now, given the COVID scenario, how difficult it is, some guys have coped with it really well and bought into it more than others. Three tips that you would focus on now if you were sitting where these guys are now.
Good question. Do you want it RIASA related, Martin, or just kind of in general?
Anything that you want to share with us, Matt, because there's been some absolute gems that you've said. So you're now sat where they are and somebody else is speaking.
Yeah. So I think, and this is something I talk about with my buddies right now, and we talk about here at the USL, because we were all remote for a while. I'm in the office today, but we're still remote. And everybody is across the world. So it's kind of cool that it's a shared experience. But I think this past year, 2020, and as we continue on 21, number one, it's not a lost year. And I think if you do it the right way and you take this time, that you're never really going to get an opportunity again in your life to focus on you as intensely as you are right now. And I mean that in terms of really focusing on what you want in the future, focusing on what you're doing now in terms of your time management, your organization, focusing on your physical side. You guys have got so much time. If you're remote right now, or you're kind of in quarantine, in terms of like physicality, whether you want to bulk up or you want to get fit in terms of running or you want to do other stuff. I mean, you've got so much time to do it. Now is the time that you should, your body should be in amazing shape. So I think number one, kind of the first tip I'd give you is that there's not going to be a better time in any of our lives that we're going to get to focus as intensely on ourselves as we are right now. And for you guys that are in places where it's starting to open back up and life's starting to hit you again, you're already seeing how quickly things move and how quickly your time gets sucked up. So in terms of kind of number one, personal development, this is the best chance you're ever going to get. So you need to be on it. And number two, I'll pop in and kind of go right into it, is how do you do that? For me, I'm a big list guy. That started at RIASA, actually, weirdly, but I think it was just with so much stuff going on, I wanted to get organized. So in terms of what you're doing every day, you've got to have I personally believe I do 30 minutes segments, start at whatever, start at 7, start at 7:30, start at 8. And every 30 minutes, you don't have to have it, totally itemized out, but you got to know what you're doing in that general time period. You've got to know every day when your physical aspect's going to be. You got to set aside time for your goal setting, your goal planning. Got to set aside time for your work or your schoolwork and have that all scheduled out, because now's the time to do it. Not only because when we have all this free time, it's easy to lose it, but also as life starts to pick back up, if you don't have that disciplined schedule and the ability to itemize out your time in your day, then you won't get it back when life starts to pick up. So number two is this. Yeah, it's a huge personal development opportunity. Make sure you're putting in the infrastructure to develop the right way. And then I think number three, and we'll do that more on like the vision setting. So it's funny because you're never going to get a time like this in your life again where you get to focus on you so much, and you're never going to get a time where you get to devote like this much time to effectively what you want to do, whether it's go work out, whether it's study in school, or even my guys do this, piss me off. I don't do this, but if you think about how much you're playing video games, or you're doing like Xbox, or you're doing FIFA or Call of Duty or whatever it is, think about you took 30 minutes of that and you put it to, I'm sitting with a pen and a piece of paper and I'm going to write down 10 jobs that I want to have, in the next 10 years, or if it's soccer related, we're talking a lot about professional stuff, but if it's soccer related, you guys need to be thinking about right now, how am I going to play pro? Because these coaches will give you the best opportunity to continue to develop as a player. Mark does what he can to create connections in Europe, which is an incredibly hard thing to do. And I think you guys probably are aware, but maybe not. And kind of looking back at it now, being on the pro side, Americans playing in Europe is incredibly tough. It's a very, very tough thing to do, logistically wise. Doesn't even matter your talent. And you guys will learn that, I think, in life, is that talent is, one part of such a big thing. But if you want to play soccer at the next level, or you want to continue to play, you need to write out how that's going to happen. because it's not, nobody's going to knock on your door and give it to you. You know, I bet very few of you guys had a call from a college coach that gave you a full ride. You know, the soccer, the way that soccer is you have to work for it. But the good thing is, if you work for it, if you do the right things, you're going to get those opportunities. But you've got to make sure you're trying every aspect. So the final kind of piece I would say for right now, if I'm sitting in your shoes, is I'm doing that 30-minute a night future goal setting, future planning, just vision review, and I'm writing it all down. Because if you don't write it down, you'll lose it. And if you write it down, then it's out in the world and you can work on it. So the final thing I'm doing after I've organized my day, after I've put in the personal development time, is looking at, you know, in the next 12 months, what do I want to do? In the next 3 years, what do I want to do? You know, in the next 10 years, by the time I'm 30, by the time I'm 35, what do I want to do? Have that written down. Figure out what you're thinking about all day. Think about what it is that resonates the most with you, and then start putting together a plan for how you go and do that. Because ultimately, you guys will get out of this program and you'll go and do a million different things, and you'll see from the program the guys that won and did it the right way, and you'll see the guys that still have to figure out how to do it. And this is, I mean, again, this is, you're never going to get a time like this in your life. So we're all hunkered down. We're all kind of in a tough spot right now, but there's a lot of growth that can occur.
Matt, I can't thank you enough for that. And without boring you, just to explain to the guys, that was not a preset question.
No.
So they'll be saying, "Oh, you were talking about a lockdown diary that you want us to do. We've got a fitness app. We've got this, that, and the other." Well, you just heard it. So that is not a loaded question. Matt didn't know that was coming.
No.
Which for us as the staff is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's habits of success. I think in general, it doesn't matter what the discipline is. It could be sport, it could be business, but the guys that are at the top are obsessed with working on their craft every day. And a big part of that's documenting it. A big part of that's making sure you're tracking it.
Perfect. Cheers, Martin. Thanks, Matt. So probably got time for one, maybe two questions if we can, if anyone else has any questions.
Yeah, I'll ask a question, please. Matt, I'm sure you've worked with plenty of different people, whether it is at RIASA, whether it is in the USL, but I was just wondering what traits and like what similar traits do those people have that were successful? Yeah.
Great question. So I'll tell you this. I think the first one is, the first one's interesting. So the first thing I'll tell you about the majority, 95% of the successful people I've met are that people gravitate towards them. People like being around them. They're team players. And what I mean by that is, you know, shit's not always going to go the right way, but there's somebody that you look to who's going to deal with it and move on. When you do have a successful period, they're going to be the type of people that are celebrating with the team and making sure everybody's involved. And kind of in that day-to-day, they're people that you just like being around, that you gravitate towards. So I think it's super important, and you guys are getting to experience this. You've done it your whole life. You're already at an advantage, but when you get to the real world, you find out that like not everybody's used to working in a team. Not everybody's used to accommodating different personalities and different lifestyles. So having that ability, being somebody who other people want to be around, is something I found that at the high level, everybody is. So that's number one. Number two is, dude, work ethic. You know, you've probably been hearing it your whole life. You think like whatever, like hard work. Everybody says that. I always say this. I think it's kind of funny. Hard work's both the easiest thing you can do, and it's also the toughest thing in the world. It's very tough to work hard. It's incredibly tough. Not everybody wants to do it, but it's super easy if you just commit to it. You can get your brain to a point to go, dude, this is going to suck, but I have to do it. I have no other option. You're going to have success. And the people that I found that are super successful have that trait. They accept reality for what it is. And reality for them is, dude, I'm working my ass off. And that's just it. And they get disgusted with themselves if they don't. So I think kind of between those two things and maybe the third, not everybody's like this, but I think the ultra successful people are very deliberate with what they do. They're not, they're not screwing around with like life. They have a plan. They're busy. They've got a lot of things. Like for me, for example, like the people I see that are successful, you might have heard this adage before, but they say like, you want to get something done, find a busy person, they'll get it done for you. Like busy people, successful people are people that have discipline, that have organization, that have structure. And they see, okay, I see this task. I know this is 20 minutes. I can fit it in right here. And they've got that down. Some of them write it all out. Some of them are really good. They got it in their head. But I think kind of that third aspect is discipline in general, which goes with the second. But for me, the highly successful people are good team players, super driven and super disciplined and organized.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. That was really good.
Have you got time for one more question, Matt?
Yeah, absolutely.
One more question, anyone? Did someone speak? Any takers?
I got one more question. So like you're talking a lot about like setting plans, setting goals and objectives for yourself and like writing it down and lists and stuff like that. So for a more personal question, what are your next few objectives in the past 2 to 3 years? In the next 2 to 3 years.
Good question. I'll give you three. This is how I divide my goals. So you guys could do this similar if you want, or you do it your own way. This is actually something I got out of the master's program, Leeds Beckett. But you split up your life. You look at your different aspects of your life. I do career, I do academic, and I do athletic. Still, that's always how I divide it up. Career we can start with because that's what I do here. So for me, career-wise, I mean, I got this gig right now where we're trying to basically grow League One, which is the third division, and League Two, the championship. Between now and the 2026 World Cup, I want to put at least 30 new franchises in the U.S. So you'll know right away. You see that goal. It's career-oriented. I've got a time limit on it, which is 2026, and I've got a specific thing in mind that I'm trying to hit, which is 30 clubs, 30 franchises. So you guys probably know about SMART goals, but the more you can create SMART goals for yourself, the better off you'll be, I think, in terms of achieving them. They don't all have to be like that. Another one I have is kind of academic, kind of career, just a life one in general. Oh, well, sorry, we'll do this one first. Athletic. So the next one for me is athletic. I want to do an Ironman by the end of 2026. So my goal for this year is to complete a triathlon. I've never done an Olympic triathlon. So in terms of training, I'm working on that now. I still play, still have a great time playing. I don't have a goal for soccer right now. I just love playing it. But athletically, something to keep pushing myself, something to keep training is I want to start the triathlon route. So I'm working on that. That's my goal this year. And then just kind of a overall personal one that's a little bit further down the road is still soccer related. That's my life. But 2026 World Cup, I want to be at the games. And I don't have I think the super high goal is I want to be at the final in a business related capacity. So like I don't want to have to buy a ticket to be at the final, basically is what I should say. That's kind of an overall goal. I think that kind of does a pretty good job of like putting it all into perspective, in terms of it's a little bit general. It's not like super specific to say, but shit, man, I just want to be at that game and not have to pay for a ticket to be there. So I think that kind of gives you a couple of different examples of things that I'm working with on the day to day.
Awesome. Matt, I can't thank you enough for your time. It's been really good.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Matt. And, if you get a chance to, obviously, the program's been amazing to me. Appreciate everything it's given me. Certainly want to give back too. So if you guys have questions or comments, or you're looking at jobs, or you want me to look at stuff, my LinkedIn is is just my name. So you type that in, we'll talk from there, because you should all have LinkedIn. That's the only other thing. Get that and we'll go.
Thanks, Matt. Brilliant. Absolutely
Appreciate it,
brilliant.
Mark.
Great
Thank you,
seeing you. Great seeing you again. Thanks
You
a
as
lot.
well. Be good. Be safe. I'll talk to you guys. I'll see you guys all soon. Good luck. Keep it going.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.